What is the most damaging thing kids can be around to be exposed to? Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy. Thanks. Story 1. Domestic violence. Story 2. Abuse, neglect, and violence. Story 3. Parents who don't have any emotional intelligence and don't know how to show love. Grew up with parents who never been hugged, therefore hugs were something I get on birthdays. My parents were very loving but in their own ways. They made lots of presents, and my dad was a quality time kinda guy and would often take me swimming on the weekend when I was little. My mom was never a hugger. I asked her to hug me a few times in the last years, and I could tell it was uncomfortable to her. She often refused to hug me when I was crying. Both parents were and still are overwhelmed by me. I have lots of strong emotions. My mom can be cold. A few weeks ago I had a mental breakdown and was screaming and hitting my head. I have bad depression and got diagnosed with ADHD in December. My mom was not even trying to calm me down before it happened. I sat next to her crying and she just said, "Okay, it's all good now. Stop now, please." My mom would never hug me, but we would lay together on the couch and I would put my head on her belly. I was a kid that needed that a lot. I just rarely got it how I needed it. Generational trauma is to blame for this. Like I said, they never got hugged, but it affected my mom a lot. She had to be a housewife at 13 BC. Her mother and father were working. Story 4. Not the most damaging, but something I absolutely loathe is parents that talk shit about each other in front of their kids. I have worked as a personal assistant to disabled kids for many years, and the parents go on and on about how shitty the other parent is in front of their kids. It never stops. It makes me hate the parents and quit the job every time. Thank God I got myself another education, which isn't to say kids should have no boundaries or guidance. But parents refusing to apologize to a kid when the parent has behaved badly is so damaging. "Hey sweetheart, I'm sorry I snapped. I'm feeling really tired today and I shouldn't have taken that out on you." Do-over. Teaches them so much more than just doubling down and making them feel they shouldn't exist when a parent is in a bad mood, and all the stuff about not giving into things like using the kid's favorite cup or whatever. I use my favorite mug for coffee. I do the same for my partner. Just because if I can easily do something that gives a person I love a little bit of happiness, why_wouldn't_I? It's not spoiling them, it's just being nice to people. Story 7. Pedophiles. Story 8. Radiation. It's technically the most damaging thing anyone can be exposed to. Story 9. Childhood emotional neglect. Story 10. A co-parent who brainwashes a child against the other. Story 11. One that doesn't get talked about enough, an absolute don't talk to strangers mentality. It doesn't reduce their odds of getting molested or kidnapped, does nothing to prepare them for what to actually do in one of those situations to protect themselves, and instills lifelong social anxiety. Source: I was fed literal hours of stranger danger videos and now I can't make phone calls without tensing up and feeling like I'm going to be physically sick. Story 13. Being used as a pawn by parents during divorce. Story 14. Unregulated internet. Trust me. Story 15. Parents who stay together for the kids. Story 16. Those parents who want to always stay with their child like a police helicopter. They end up not being able to do anything alone when they come to the real world. Story 17. Literally, their parents. If they are clueless about how to properly care for their child, especially during the first 5 years, the damages can last a lifetime and are very difficult to help. Story 18. TikTok. 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 Story 19. As someone who has a chain-smoking mother, cigarettes has got to be up there. Second-hand smoke is no joke. Story 20. Emotional trauma. Physical or emotional abuse either between the parents or towards them. Bullying. Toxic masculinity or femininity. Been treated as less than human. Story 21. Porn. Edit. When I grew up, porn was always playing, and I can tell you it is very damaging to be playing with Barbies and to look over and see a DP scene on the huge television. Story 22. Forms of instant gratification and easy stimulation. I grew up with video games and TV. My parents did all the chores and only focused on giving me a dream childhood. I appreciate their efforts, don't get me wrong, but now I find myself an adult in a world I'm ill-equipped for. It requires a lot of focus and determination to do tasks that need to be done but aren't as flashy and instantly rewarding. When I have kids, I still want them to have a good childhood, but I want them to recognize the value of hard work, and I want to avoid setting them up for addiction to artificially high-stimulating activities. Story 24. A parent that doesn't love them. Story 25. Religion. Story 26. Mercury and lead. Story 27. Alcohol, abuse, and drugs. Story 28. Narcissistic parents. Story 29. Smokers. Secondhand smoke inhalation is still very damaging to a person's lungs, even more so for a child, and the fact that it's so commonplace means that a lot of kids are exposed to it daily. It also means that kids are more likely to pick up smoking because they see their parents do it and think it's okay, and then get hooked on nicotine. It also causes things like lung diseases, COPD, strokes, cancer, and heart diseases, with cancer and heart disease being the top 2 leading reasons for death in the United States. Story 31. Pedophile family members. We don't just stay away from person, you need to fucking cut person out of your life and have open and serious conversations about bodily autonomy, saying no, and talking to a trusted adult from toddlerhood on. Kids need to know proper body part names, and that those private body parts are never to be touched by someone else, and that grown-ups are not allowed to ask them to keep secrets. I wish I had known any of this growing up, but my family was more into looking the other way and completely ignoring it. Also, domestic violence. Parents addicted to drugs. Unrestricted internet access at a young age, even as a young teen. All things being equal, the worst thing a child can be exposed to is an overly supportive environment. There's a lot of people that think you need to constantly encourage the child, tell them they're right, agree with them and support their views. The truth is that the child is a developing person. They need honest feedback in order to learn and grow. Blowing smoke up a kid's ass might make you feel good in the short term, and it might even give them a brief ego boost, but if a kid's wrong, they need to be told they're wrong and why. Otherwise, you end up with an emotionally and intellectually stunted adult who will likely end up with a ton of mental health issues because the world isn't kissing their ass anymore now that they're grown, and they don't know how to deal with it. Story 34. A war-torn country. Story 35. Being left glued with phone tablets too much. They don't develop muscle motors to be active. Story 36. Atom bombs, I guess. Story 37. Parents who think they themselves have been raised correctly. Story 38. Call me old-fashioned, but I despise how children are being exposed to politics so early in the US school system. School should be about encouraging children to learn the world around them and make an opinion for themselves. Now, it's become a turf war between Democrats and Republicans for future votes, and children's education is suffering and setting up students for failure. Story 40. Uncontrolled screen time and internet access. Story 41. I'm gonna say forced sexual abuse by a parent. It's kind of the intersection of all the trust and developmental issues in one tidy package. That stuff will deeply fuck up generations. Story 42. Not having basic human needs, rights met. Story 43. Social media. Story 44. Parents that fight 24/7s. People that sexually abuse them. Story 45. Lava. Story 46. Porn. It changes their ideas about sex when they're really young. We're talking prepubescent here. For the record, I'm not against porn consumption, but considering the fact that it's everywhere now, it's gotta be affecting kids when they see it incredibly young and how they grow up. Maybe it's more the having unrestricted access part that messes people's brains up than the actual pornography itself. Story 48. Guns. Firearms are now the #1 killer of children in the US. Story 49. Porn. Story 50. Racism, especially in a loved and trusted figure.